Okay, we're going to get started. It is week 3. Welcome, everyone. We are pretty much at the halfway point at this during this mod. So hopefully you guys are getting all of the feedback that I had given to you this past weekend and are applying those changes to your identity pieces going forward. It's really important that you do so because it's all part of the process when we go through this. So you will be building upon your identity pieces this week, but you should also be revising from last week as well, so that when we get to week 4, you don't have to take as much time to keep, revise the whole 4 pieces, or 3 pieces, I should say. You'll kind of have enough time to really hone in on all the details. And that's all part of the process as we, as designers work through a concept. When clients get back to you with changes, it's all part of that process, very important part. So make sure that you are meeting the deadlines every week. We only have 4 weeks of this class. We only have about 2 weeks left. So if you're submitting your work late, you're not getting that much needed time to add, to evolve your work going forward. Okay, let's see. As we go forward here. Hopefully everybody's having a great start of the week here. It's Monday. We're going to be going over some announcements, and then we'll look at your assignment 3. You guys will be creating a tri-fold brochure for assignment 3. And then we're going to take a look at your assessment 3. We'll do a demo of that, and that's your signage that will go along with your identity pieces. Okay, let's see here. I have a lot of stuff loading in the background here, so I apologize for any delays. Just don't forget, the due dates, again, are really important. We make sure we're hitting all of those deadlines, especially for discussions, because if you miss your discussion deadline, you can't post that late. You won't get credit for it. So just make sure you're getting that in. We're all college students, or you guys are college students. You guys should be, at the point where you're creating good habits, and because we're soon to be, you guys will be graduating, and you'll need to do that in life as far as your job goes. Okay, so before we get into all this printing details here, let me hide some stuff off my screen. I just want to open up Canvas so we can take a look at our learning objectives for this week here. Like I said, I'm on a little bit of a delay with my computer because I have about 3 programs launching in the background here. All right. So week 3, if you click on week 3, this is where you'll get the introduction of the week as far as the learning objectives, and a nice little short video here you can take a look at. All right, so the learning objectives for week 3, this is all of the things that you should be coming away with and learning this week. Differentiate between spot, Pantone, RGB, and CMYK color models. Distinguish the similarities and differences between raster images and vector graphics. Distinguish the differences between Pantone RGB and CMYK gamut. Set up margins, gutters, and bleeds in a document for correct pre-press output. Create a packaged print-ready pre-press file, and then create a print-ready PDF. So a lot of this stuff you will be kind of implementing and learning as you go forward with your assignments this week. But it's kind of nice to see what you'll be kind of coming away with this week. And then discussion, let's talk about this because we're going to go right into just the regular part of our lecture. So let's talk about this, and then we'll get into the regular part of our lecture. So this week, we're going to be kind of looking at vector and raster files and distinguishing the similarities and the differences between raster images and vector graphics. Go ahead and read the background. I won't read that out loud here. By all means, read through that. Watch this 4-minute video, kind of explains it a little bit more in detail. The prompt is, imagine that you have just landed a great design job. The client would like you to produce a billboard for his company, along with a brochure and some promotional items like embroidered hats and jackets. The company has a logo that they have used for years, and they're sticking with their current brand. The client instructs you to go to their website and grab the logo from their homepage, saying that is where others have gotten it from the past, and that is the only logo that exists. All right, so that's the situation that you're in. So for your initial post, you need to address the following questions. Will this logo work for the projects you have been hired to do? Why or why not? How do you explain your dilemma to the client? How does color gamut figure into this? So for your citation, you might use articles that describe the vector versus raster artwork, print versus web resolution and color, or which file type is best for which job. When looking at your fellow students' discussion posts, you might consider addressing which points that they may come across as well, and which need further explanation. So what might help clarify their points? Can you help them expand their explanation? Can you share some resources that you found helpful while researching this discussion? Your initial and reply post should work to develop a group understanding of this topic. You can challenge each other, build upon each other. Always be respectful, but discuss this and figure it out together. All right, so pretty much, this is a pretty familiar scenario in the design industry. I hate to tell you this, but I've come across this many, many times when I worked for advertising agencies and publication companies, especially with clients, because they have no idea, they just don't know for the most part. Some of them do, some of them understand, but for the most part, I would say the majority of them probably don't. I mean, most of them didn't go to school for what we go to school for, so that's kind of our job to educate them in a professional manner as to what they need to provide you the best possible file. And we all know when you take anything from the web to pull off and for print purposes, it's not the best option because it's a low res on the web. It's only 72 dots per inch on the web. So for print, the high resolution needs to be at least 300 pixels per inch. So that's where the problem comes in at. There's also other color issues, but this is something that you'll need to kind of, look at, go outside, get some supportive resources to support your perspective and build your discussion. Okay, if you have any questions, let me know. You can even talk about different raster-based programs and vector-based programs that designers would use. You might want to kind of differentiate the two. All right, let me know if you have any questions, but that's pretty much what we'll be discussing, and that'll kind of give you a little bit more insight on, as a designer, how to kind of communicate to your client if there is an issue or something similar situation arises when you go forward into the industry. Okay, let's talk about the printing process, because this is a big part of what we do as designers. It's not just us kind of coming up with really cool concepts and ideas. That's all part of it, but printing process is also a big part of it. And sometimes this part kind of gets maybe not ignored, but maybe not thought about initially when you start a project. And I always like to tell my students, it's always good to think backwards when you start a design project. Usually we start with your process steps. You start with initiating, like grabbing all the information that you can from the client, doing your research, brainstorming. But sometimes it's good to go from, start from the end, the actual finished process steps. That way you can better prepare yourself for what you need going forward. And it kind of makes you think maybe of different ideas and ways that you can go about setting things up, and really gives you some insight so you're not making mistakes as you go forward. And those mistakes can be very time consuming and also costly. So if you think about the final steps first in the process, you might really save some time and money in the whole process itself. So the printing process, what we think about, there's these 5 steps, and we'll be breaking it down into details here, but for the most part, step 1 is defining the project. That's typically what you do when you get a project. You gather all the requirements, you budget and schedule, and we'll go into this in a little bit detail here in the next slides. You'll discuss the output quality and initial design ideas within this process step. Step 2, select vendors, evaluate printers and service providers, establish a process, choose the elements of the project, paper and ink. And then step 3, pre-press and design. You're going to assign elements of the job, implement design, craft the project, prep files for output, and review the design. Step 4, handoff and proof. Discuss printing issues, send files to film, plates, pre-press, and establish proofing method. And step 5, proof and print. Check placement of graphics and copy. Review press proofs and observe assembly. So step 1, defining your project. Let's talk about this a little bit in detail here. So when you start the project, you get specifications and requirements from the client and or in-house. And within that, you'll get budget, quality, quantity, and longevity of the piece. You know, how many is needed to print? What's the quality of it? You know, maybe it doesn't have to be good quality. It just needs to be cheap and a lot of quantity-wise. So that's kind of where the choosing of the paper and the ink come into place. Longevity, you know, is this going to be sitting around for a couple of years, or is it just going to be something that's in the mail and very quickly thrown out eventually? Schedule file submission production. So you might want to schedule with the actual printer proofs. You might want to set something up saying, hey, I need a proof of this, which means, you know, say if you have a mock-up of something that, you know, if it's a package design, you might need to see the printed proof to make sure it's all coming together. You might want to do a color proof with that. Make sure all the colors look right. Paper with the ink. Make any revisions that need to be, and delivery. Talk about revisions and how it will be delivered. Okay. Design concepts, special requirements, you know. There might be die lines involved, which means special cuts in the paper or folds. So there's a lot that goes into it depending on the project. RFQ and selecting vendors. So your company or your printer will most likely have a setup for a bid sheet or request for quotes, so RFQ. Some details may vary, but usually the following information needs to be included. So before you select a vendor, you'll be filling out something similar for a quote. So you'll put your contact information, your page count, binding, if any, paper type and weight, color job information, you know, if you have 4-color or Pantone, a spot color, and then the quantity. I mean, how many do you need printed? You will need to plan out these details with your printer so you know their capabilities. You can also ask for comparison bids in different materials and quantities and from different vendors. Typically, when I worked for the, you know, advertising agencies, we would bid out a couple printers and get some quotes. Because, you know, not only are we trying to save money and trying to find the best vendor for our piece, but not every vendor can do it right away. Some are backed up. You know, some of them have a lot of jobs going on. They can't meet the deadline. You know, some of them may not be able to do special die cuts or special things that you might need done. So it's always good to kind of get a couple bids, not just for cost, you know, effectiveness, but or saving money, but, you know, you might find out something that cannot be done that you want done, and it'll be kind of too late in the process if you're not kind of going through the vendor selection. Working with your printer, other details you will have to work out in cooperation with your printer are timeline. So deadlines for submission, proofs, press checks, production, and eventually shipping. Price per sheet, complete job. You know, you need to set up this timeline because, you know, you want to make sure you're hitting all of these time frames so that the job goes out in time. A lot of times clients will say, I need this by, you know, this needs to be sent out by a certain date. So you need to make sure you have a timeline with your printer for file submission so they can get the file on time so that they are able to print it on time. You know, if proofs are needed before then to send to you, you need time in between that to look at the proof and sign off on it. Press checks are basically you going to the actual press, the actual printer itself. I've done a couple of these, and you actually show up. Sometimes the clients will be there and you look at the actual sheets coming off the press and you sign, you know, based on whether you think it looks good or not. Saves some time and money. And then you get to be the first on deck to like see it as it's coming off the press. All right, so each company has different methods and processes. This is only a rough overview. Sometimes you will need to add information later in the process as well. So for an example, you know, when I worked for the smaller ad agency, we actually went on press checks, but when I worked for the larger ad agency, we didn't. We had, you know, other people kind of on on cue to do that, or the process was a little different. So it's all really relative to where you're working, what your job title is, and what your responsibilities are. Even the company size, you know, if you work for a smaller company, you might be doing more things than what you would be in a bigger company. So it's all very relative to your situation. Working with your printer is a team effort. It's important to build a relationship through good communication. Very, very true. I think that's true in all cases, though, in the working world. The printing process, pagination, imposition, and signatures. Let's talk about that. So your layout program InDesign will order the pages as you view them in the finished binding. This includes a front and back page and two page spreads. You can see that on the right-hand side there. To utilize both fronts and backs of each page in a spine-bound print job, you need to have multiples of 4 for your page count, or some pages will end up blank. So that's kind of why we have facing pages there. So why page counts for printing or multiples of 4? So during printing, your pages are printed on large sheets of paper that holds, and it depends on your book size, 8, 16, or 32 pages. And they're all multiples of 4. Below you can see on the next slide, this large sheet of paper known as a parent sheet with 8 pages printed on both sides. So 16 total. After printing, these sheets are folded and inserted into your book as a whole unit. If your page count was not a multiple of 4, you would be left with blank pages throughout your book. So here's an example of a parent sheet that's being folded on the left-hand side here. And then that's number 1 fold, number 2 fold to the right, kind of added to that fold. Fold number 3, you keep folding it, and then after binding, these 3 sides are trimmed to open the pages. That's if it's actually bound. This is pretty much set up by the printer when you send the file to them. So it's not something that you have to worry about, but it consists in the arrangement of the printed product pages on the printer sheet in order to obtain faster printing. You know, pretty much is a very easy process, simplify binding and reduce paper waste. That's the reason why they do that. So imposition is one of the fundamental steps in the pre-press printing process, and your printer will set this up from your bid and file. Most publications are produced by printing 8 pages on one side of a large paper sheet, then 8 more pages on the other side, so a 16-page signature. This can vary depending on your page and paper size. This large sheet is then folded and trimmed, and the resulting set of pages is called a signature. Got a nice little visual there. So bleeds and trim to accommodate the slight variations that will happen as the sheet is fed through the printer and the pages are trimmed. You need to set up your pages with a bleed. Your printer will determine what your bleed should be. Usually it's about a 1/8 inch, so 0.125 inches. It is also important that your design allows for the space the binding will take up in the spine. So you have to kind of be considerate of that space in between where the binding is or would be. You need to have a little bit more margin space there to compensate for that fold. Okay, so here's some examples down there of the safe zones. There's different kinds of bindings, you know, just so many different kinds. 3-ring is one of them. So it's a 3 punch holes in the left side of a printed page, a common format for 3-ring binders. You have a spiral binding, coils wound through the top or left margin of printed pages. You have saddle stitch, 2 or more staples inserted at fold. You have a perfect binding, all signatures put together, then ground down and paper cover glued around spine. And this link here kind of gives you some binding types. I think this link actually doesn't work anymore. I think I taught this the last mod and this link wasn't working. But if you just do a Google search for binding, so printing, and you do an image search, let's see if I can come up with something visual here to show you. Print binding examples. This little Google image. see if I can find something. There's so many different examples here. Okay, this one's more of like a visual in terms of what it looks like on the actual book itself here. Perfect binding, wire binding, coil binding, saddle stitch, comb binding, tape binding corner. I think this one might be, yeah, this one's a little bit more detailed. And certain printers can do certain things, so the printer might not be able to do all of that, but yeah, I'll try to find a good resource for you guys because I don't think that link works anymore. I'll post it to announcements. But there's different kinds of bindings. It's always good to kind of know what's out there if you do have something that is multiple pages and needs to be bound. It's always good to see the choices. Maybe, you know, the print rep that you go with might come to your place where you work and show you not only paper that's available, but also different bindings. So you can kind of look through that. Some projects may be folded instead of bound. So this requires that you think carefully about how the different sides of the sheet will flow together once they're folded. Sometimes we don't think about that, and then last minute we're like, oh no, it doesn't work. The best way to envision that this will the best way to envision this is to make a physical mock-up and lay out your document accordingly. I am not kidding you. I've made so many mock-ups, I can't even count how many mock-ups I've done in my past. And it's huge because it really can catch some really big mistakes that you maybe have done. And, you know, instead of going right to the printer right away, you're catching them right before. So you're actually physically mocking them up. So I would actually print them out at where I'm working, cut it out, paste it together, fold it, however it kind of goes together, and look at it at its true size and form, and then kind of, you know, see how it works. If it doesn't work, you need to change some things. So it's a good way to catch any type of details that aren't working or major mistakes, even spelling errors going through everything. There are also templates available, that you can use to help you lay out a folded printed document. Oh, I had a little yawn there come across. Okay, here's types of folding too. We talked about bindings, but we didn't talk about foldings. You can see visually some foldings going on here. 4-page single fold, 6-page concertina fold, standard gate fold, 6-page. So there's all different kinds of fold, a gate fold. And it depends on the piece what would work best for your situation. But, you know, it's not always just a 4-page single fold. You don't have to have just a single fold. There's different ways that you can have it folded. So it's always good to know of these options when you're trying to think of a concept. So again, this is a good example of thinking backwards. You know, okay, you have this concept that you want to work on. Let's think about how we want this shown on paper. How is this going to be folded, bound? So this is a great way to see that this is such an important step of the process to think ahead of time in the process so that you're knowing the options and picking the best option. Paper, weights, you know, another thing to think about if you're doing, you know, a booklet, you might want a heavier weighted cover that's more textured. It's not just white paper. You have different shades of white. It's kind of like when you go to Home Depot or Lowe's and you walk into their paint area where they have all those swatches. There's a million different hues of one color. So you might have white, and then you have eggshell white, faded white, you know. So there's so many different options out there that you need to be aware of so that you're making the best choice possible for your project. The example of the picture here is showing you just a very quick swatch of samples of paper, and these can be sent to you. You can send away for these for free from printers or paper companies. Your paper rep might come and drop off a whole bunch of samples. That's always fun to look at, so that you can actually touch and feel and look at the paper itself, because there's so much you know, involved tactile-wise, experience-wise, that you need to pick the one that's best for the project. You have different coated, uncoated, gloss. You know, typically when you have a lot of things. Say if you're working on a project that has lots of body copy on it, you don't really want to go with a glossy paper, hard to read. So maybe an uncoated paper would be best. If you're looking at a magazine with lots of pictures, gloss might be good, or coated might be the way to go. Okay, so again, this will be provided to you in paper samples, so you can take a look at what's best for your project. Finishes, texture or smooth. You know, there's so many different things out there. Software and files. So PDF files are the standard for print job submissions. I don't know why I'm getting this yawn fest here. I apologize. So PDFs are the standard for print job submissions, Photoshop, image editing. So let's talk about, so PDF files, when you send a high-res PDF file to a printer, they're typically able to print from that for your job. That's kind of what that's saying. Photoshop, we're talking about vector versus raster. Photoshop is a raster-based program, and that's where you do a lot of image editing. So it's pixel-based. That's what comprises the images of from pixels, and you can manipulate the pixels for image editing. In Illustrator, it's a vector-based program, and that's basically where you do logos and other graphics icons, etc. InDesign is a combination of text and images, superior for double-sided and multi-page documents, packages print-ready files, good for laying out, you know, your whole entire project. And then Acrobat also has some pre-flight capabilities with PDF files, and that's kind of what that's good for. So just different software, for different purposes, and also different files for different purposes. All right, hopefully you don't have any questions about that. I'm actually gonna take a 5-minute break here. Try to get these yawning, because I don't know, I guess I'm not getting enough air into my brain or something. You get a drink here and come back, and we'll go ahead into your demo for your assignment 3, and then we'll continue from that into your assessment 3 demo. So I'll be back in 5 minutes. Okay, looks like the break is over here. We're going to get started into your assignment 3. Go over to this next slide here. Hold on a second. There we go. Okay. So basically what you guys are going to be working on is you're going to be compiling your, all of kind of what you've been working on, your logo color scheme, and maybe, you know, typefaces that you use for your poster. And you're going to be implementing it into a trifold brochure. So we will be combining your logo with, you know, different other elements that are required for your trifold brochure, which are included in the assignment specs. So let's go ahead and open up your assignment details here. We'll take a closer look at what is needed to be done. There's lots of information going on in this assignment 3. So let's open this up and we'll discuss this, and then I'll show you kind of how to get started here. Okay, so you can read through the background information. It kind of talks about things to kind of be mindful of as you're designing the brochure. So it talks about bleed and margins and gutters, all the things that you need to be very mindful of when you're designing this. And I'm going to let you guys read that. I'm going to just start at the prompt here. So basically, brochures can be very powerful marketing tools if handled in the correct way. It is important that your approach to the brochure maintains any corporate branding that has been established while making an impression on the target audience. Here are a few brochure design tips to help you begin your project. So know who your target audience is. What is their age? What is their income? What role do they have in the family? Are they primarily male or female? And what is important to them? You know, discussing these details will help you communicate better visually with the target audience. You're not excluding everyone. You're just kind of focusing and honing in your concept to communicate to those specific people. Spend considerable time designing the cover of your brochure. It is the reason a potential client will pick it up or pass it by. Something to think about. So your front cover panel should be kind of the enticer, the persuading part of your brochure. So maybe it doesn't have as much body copy on it. Maybe it's a big focal point image with the logo and kind of persuasive imagery in there. Create a cohesive visual roadmap throughout your brochure, making it easy to follow and understand by using properly sized gutters, consistent margins, and a well thought out folding pattern. You know, thinking about that, is there a repetitive pattern or some type of elements that you're going to be keeping it cohesive throughout the brochure to kind of easily guide the eye through it? So these are all things that you need to think about. Put first things first, so lead with strength and then give details. Use style sheets to maintain consistency within the type. Remember, there should be no more than 3 sizes and 2 fonts used in your brochure. It's always something to think about. Keep your colors consistent and few no more than 2 or 3 colors total. Employ the big 4 design principles to create focal points, hierarchy, and unity within your design. Utilize a grid system to give you a strong structure upon which to build. You must incorporate the following. So that's just something to think about, tips. And now we're going to talk about what you need to include. So at least 3 photos. You're going to download the approved photos here. We'll take a look at that in a second. Your final color logo and palette needs to be included. Paragraph styles in InDesign. All text from this file, so you need to download this as well. Again, you'll be doing this in InDesign. Project specifications, final flat size is 11.875 by 9 inches, landscape format. You're going to have two sides folded to 4 inches by 9 inches. Margins, 0.325 inches. Bleed size, 0.125 inch. Color space, CMYK. Please review the week's readings and videos for demonstration on how to set this up correctly using 6 separate pages for the panels. Pre-press requirements. So all images converted to CMYK first before you do anything. All images placed correctly at correct resolution for print, 300 pixels per inch. Images not scale below 80% or higher than 120%. All spot colors converted to CMYK. Bleeds correctly implemented. Margins and gutters properly positioned. Document packaged for print. So those are the pre-press requirements. And then the submission requirements are, obviously you need to have it saved as such for your InDesign file. You're going to export the InDesign file to press quality PDF, include crop marks and bleeds. And note that this is a different setting than print quality. You're going to package the InDesign file, make sure there's no errors in the report. If you need to fix them, do that before you, and then repackage them if you need to. Place the press quality PDF into the package folder and zip, and then upload the file. And just kind of keep your native file just in case you need to make changes to it. Okay, so that's a lot of information. What you're going to do is you're going to click on the approved photos first and foremost. So click on that. And these are the approved photos that you need to use, at least three of. So I'm going to go ahead and download these now. I'm going to place them on my desktop. Okay, so once you open that, unzip it. Once you download it and unzip it, I'll show you what this looks like here. You'll see a folder, Kayak, Brochure, Photos 2. And these are all the photos that you can choose from for your brochure. So go ahead and take a look at those. Some of them are different orientations. Some of them have different views and aesthetics to them. And use the appropriate one for the situation in your brochure. You'll definitely need to read the copy in order to know that. I'm going to pull this folder and I'm going to drag it over on my desktop so that I have it. It's ready to go. I'm going to go back to Canvas, to my specs in here. And I'm going to click on the Aqua text document, which is a Word document. So go ahead and open that up. And we're going to be using Photoshop and InDesign for this particular project. We will be using Photoshop to manipulate your photos, to save them out as the appropriate pixels per inch, dots per inch size, as well as color conversion, and if need be, oh yeah, we'll have to export it out as a TIFF file because they are all JPEGs. So just kind of be aware of, that's the first part of the process. All right, so as my Word document is opening here, I'm going to show you what this looks like. This Word document is all the information that you're going to be placing pretty much into your trifold. Obviously you won't be doing the red colored copy. That's just telling you, indicating what goes on what panel. So this is your front cover. The logo goes on there, and then this verbiage here, Kayak Tour Sales and Service, goes on there. Front or back, so you can have the address either on the front panel or the back panel. Contact information, depending on how you want to do that. Other required copy, so here's from all the way down here. This is all the copy that will be in your trifold. Feel free to kind of switch it up. Some of this is about us. You might put that on a different panel depending on how you want that to flow. And I'll kind of show you how I will approach it and maybe give you some ideas of what you can do. Okay, so that's the copy. So we have that open. Let's go back to your specifications here and let's take a look. Okay, so what we need to do, let's set up your InDesign file first. We need to make an InDesign file. Let's see, project specifications. So in InDesign, you're going to make a file 11.875 by 9. And then your margin, you'll have a 0.325 inch margin. And your bleed size 0.125, color space CMYK. So let me open up InDesign here. Okay, so we're going to do a file new document. Let's kind of ignore what I have up there. You're going to uncheck facing pages. We don't want that. Number of pages, we want 2, right? And then where it says width, we want to put the 11.875 inches. And make sure it's inches. You can check that in your preferences. And the other size, which is your height, is 9 inches. Number of columns, you could do 3 columns, and your gutter is, I would just keep that as what they defaulted in there. Your margins are 0.325. And click on this little link here so that you can set all your top, bottom, left, and right margins set as that. Your bleed is 0.25, so 1/8. And again, click on this little link and click OK. Pretty easy for the most part. Let's see what this looks like. Okay, so it's 2 pages. If I zoom out here, you can see the 2 pages in here. Okay, and then you have your margins and your gutters, and that red square is your bleeds. All right, now the big thing to talk about is where is kind of what these panels are all together here. So this top, and this is important because I have a lot of students that get this kind of not correct. So this is the front cover panel in the upper. If you think about it, if you have a trifold brochure at home, take a look at it. See how it folds out, what it looks like, where the cover is when you fold it open. And basically what you'll see is this top right corner panel is the front cover. I have a lot of students that start the cover here, but that's not really the case. This is the flap. This is the back panel. And then this is the third flap. Okay. All right, so just kind of be aware of that. I know a lot of students kind of screw that up. And it's understandable. I've been there before, and I've done that mistake before. But once you kind of understand how that's all oriented, I think you guys will be good. Okay, and then all of these are just inside of your pages. So this would be the second inside cover flap. So that would be the inside of this panel when you open it up. Middle panel, and then third inside flat panel, which would be opposite of here. Okay, so just to kind of give you a visual. So you'll start with the cover, or just know that the cover starts here. You don't necessarily have to start designing with the cover. Okay, the next thing is, think about how you're going to arrange this. You might want to do some thumbnails, look at all the images that were provided to you, and kind of start mapping this out and planning it. Have a grid structure. Look at the information. How are you going to place this? You might just place it all in there and kind of rearrange it as you go forward. All right, before you do anything though, you need to choose the images that you're going to work with. So open up Photoshop. If you know the images that you're going to work with, you need to open them up in Photoshop. So open up Photoshop, go File, Open. I'm going to go right to Kayak Photos 2. These are the images that were given to you, and they're all JPEG images they all need to be converted color-wise and also file type-wise. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and choose the ones that I'm going to use. So I think I'm going to use 3. Let's see here. 1, 3, 5. Okay, so all of these I'll use for my document. So I'm going to 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. I have 5 images I decided I'm going to use. It doesn't matter if you use 3 images, you know, as long as you're using at least 2, I think it says in there, or maybe it says 3, more than 3, you're good to go. Okay, so open all these up. They'll open up here. You'll see the tabs kind of forming up here. Whoops. Let's go back here. All right, so I'm going to go back to this first one. So what we're going to do, and this is what you need to do, when you open up the JPEG files, go up to Image on your menu bar and go down to where it says Mode, and you want to change this to CMYK. Then you're going to go Image, Image Size. You're going to make sure that this resolution here is 300. If it's not, you need to change it. You need to type in 300 and make sure that this is a reasonable size, which it is. So I'm going to click OK. And then you're going to save as. So File, Save As. And you're going to go from a JPEG to a TIFF. So go ahead. Where it says Format, drop-down menu, select the file format TIFF. And that's basically used for we'll just throw it in this folder for print purposes. It's the best file option for that. You have they are large files, but it's just all part of it. I'm going to click out of there. That looks good. Okay, this one again, I'm going to go up to Image, Image Mode. I'm going to change it from RGB to CMYK for print purposes. Then I'm going to go Image, Image Size. I'm going to check that, make sure it's 300 pixels per inch. Everything looks good. Then I'm going to do a File, Save As. Do a TIFF file. Same thing here. Image, Image Mode, CMYK, looks good. Image size, 300 pixels, yep, looks good. Save as, File, Save As, I'm doing very quickly, but it's pretty much I'm doing the same thing over and over again. So if you get it the first time, you got it hopefully the second time. So we converted from RGB to CMYK, so we have the best possible match to the color printing process method here. RGB is basically used for screen. Okay, here's a good example of when you go up to image size and it's not 300 pixels per inch, so we need to change that. So I'm going to just choose and watch what happens with the size of your file. So the width and height actually gets smaller because my resolution is higher. So squeezing in that image. As long as it's not too small, we're good. But I'm going to be using it pretty small, like about 1.5 inches. So I think I'm okay. I won't have anything to worry about quality-wise. CMYK looks good. Image size, just 300. This goes down about 2 inches by 1.5 inches. That's pretty small. But I'm not going to use it real big. Just pay attention to that so you don't want it too small, going forward. Okay. Now I'm going to go back to my InDesign because I'm ready to go. I'm ready to start the process here. Where's my InDesign? Okay, that's not working. Hold on, guys. There we go. Okay. Is it showing up? Okay, so what I'm going to do is I'm going to focus on getting an image in the background here, and it's completely up to you on how you want to start this. You don't have to do exactly what I do. Make it unique, make yours unique. I'm going to follow the bleeds. I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool. I'm going to click right on top of the start of the bleed and the left side of the bleed. I'm going to pull it all the way over and all the way down up until probably the margin, the very right margin over here. I'm going to leave that go, okay? And that'll be my background image. So I'm going to do a Command D. I kind of already pre-planned this. And I'm going to choose that kayak image that was close up. And that I saved out as a TIFF file. So you want to place the TIFF file variation in here, not the JPEG. We already did all the stuff that we needed to do, so now we're placing that image in here. I'm going to go up to Object and make sure it's fitting in here, right? So fitting fill frame proportionately looks good. If I double click on it, this red box will appear telling me, okay, you have this much more image that's not showing because your bounding box is too small. So you can go ahead and adjust it, you know, depending on if you want everything centered or if you wanted to just orient it in a different way. I'm going to take the same image and I'm going to do an alt drag just because I know I'm going to use it for my main image on the inside. And stretch it all the way out though. Object fitting fill frame proportionately. Make sure your viewing display options are on high. Everything looks good. Okay. I'm going to take my rectangle frame tool. I'm going to do an overlap here for the cover image. And again, I already saved my cover image out as a TIFF file. I kind of chose the one that I'm going to use. So, you know, that's something that'll take you a little longer to do. This is kind of like a cooking show where I show you the before and after. Okay, I'm going to kind of pull this over a little bit. This is, if you double click on it, you'll see the scale in which is placed in here. So up here on the presets, it's 100 by 100. That looks good. Pull this up just a little bit here. There we go. We're going to bring this to the front here. And I'm going to show you how to fade this out. Okay, so you're going to select your image if you wanted to kind of fade it out on this edge here, so it's not, you know, showing this guy here is kind of out of the picture. Take the gradient feather tool over here in your toolbox, and whoops, and click over to the right until the very edge appears that you want that pick to show up in. And you can kind of adjust it, kind of play around with it and see like what works best here. If you hold down the shift key, it'll give you a nice sharp line there. So that looks pretty good. I'm going to save this at this point and give it that file name that they told you how to save it as. So assignment 3, this. Okay, so we have this front cover panel ready to go. Why is this so pixelated? My thing's not caught up here. Hold on. Oh, there we go. Sometimes it just takes a while because they're higher res images. Now I need to place the logo up here or somewhere on here. And then also, remember the Word doc that I showed you guys? Let's go back to that. The front panel, it gave us some wording to put on top. Or for the front cover. So logo and then kayak tour sales and service. So you're going to copy and paste this information. Try to keep it consistent with your brand in terms of the font that you use. You don't want to use like a whole bunch of different fonts on your pieces that you're doing. So I'm going to show you how to set up your paragraph style so that that comes in nicely there. I'm going to do another rectangle frame, do Command D, which is file place, and I'm going to go and search for my final logo. And the demo that I showed you guys last week, I think I exported out. Let me just give me a sec here. the logo. Okay. I did a different logo here for you guys. So I'm kind of like trying to figure out where I put it. Give me a sec here. I think this is the logo that I did for you guys. I can't remember. I think, oh, maybe it wasn't. Maybe it was the darker one. I did a couple demonstrations. That's why I'm kind of confused here. Okay, either way, what you're gonna do is you're gonna use that TIFF file that you created for the poster. You're gonna place that in there of your logo, okay? This is getting a little big. I'll probably take this down about to 60% here. Whoops. Object fitting center. You don't want to get too big, but this is pretty good. And I'm going to kind of keep it on the top here. I'm going to have enough margin space on the top. Maybe I'll do it a little bit bigger here. Let's do 80. Sometimes you need to adjust certain things, and that's fine. Okay, and then you want to set up your paragraph styles, right? Because this is a headline that we're dealing with. So go up to Window, and paragraph styles are nice because you can set up your paragraph style, go to Styles, and then choose Paragraph. Because you can make one style and duplicate it very quickly after that, so you're not spending as much time, you know, with the same elements going through a multi-page document. So we're going to go, where it says paragraph style, we're going to go up to the upper right-hand corner and say new paragraph style. We're going to name this headline. So go ahead and rename it. Don't worry about all this should be pretty good set up as such. Basic character format, this is what we need to change. And this will be connected to your poster. So whatever font that you use in your poster, you should be using it here. And I can't remember, I think I did Futura. Let's do a little bit bigger of a font size. This is the point size. And then you can even give it a character color. And right now, I could set it's red, or maybe the red that's in the logo, which I'll have to grab. And then what you're going to do is take your type tool, click OK. Oops. Select where you want it to be added to. What the heck? Didn't save it. Hold on, you guys. Let's do medium condensed, and we'll do big. And then what you'll do is highlight it and then choose the headline to apply it. Okay, I'm going to do a shift return here, and I'm going to do select all, and I'm going to double click on the headline to edit my changes. So you're going to double click. I'm going to go to your indents and spacing where it says alignment. I'm going to do center. Okay, click OK, and that'll center my type here. I want it to be centered because I have everything pretty much centered here, so I want to keep it cohesive. That looks pretty good. Okay, so now I'm going to take a regular square or rectangle shape. I'm going to draw it out here on the bottom. I'm going to fill it with white. I'm going to give it an opacity up here is the opacity. I'm going to give it an opacity of about 70, maybe 70%. So you can see through it, but it's still giving you that contrast. Then I'm going to go back into my Word document that was provided to you. I'm going to grab the address information. So just this part with the contact. So highlight, copy, and then we'll do a paste. Take the type tool. You're going to draw a copy box. I'm going to do kind of the center of this box here. I'm going to do Command V, which is paste. We're going to highlight this. We're going to create a new paragraph style. This is going to be bold type. I'll name this one. You can name it whatever you want. I'm going to give it future regular. Whoops. Let me double click on it. I'm going to do maybe a little bold here, medium. Bold condensed maybe. And then I'm going to do center and character color. I'm going to give it that red color. I'm going to give it a little bit more leading. That's the space in between each line of text. I'm going to give it maybe a 16 leading there. Take a look at it. If it looks hard to read, which I think it's starting to look a little hard to read, let me hide. Let me go at the very bottom of my toolbar. I'm going to go to preview down here so I can see it. Yeah, look, it's looking a little hard to read. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to up the contrast level here. So it's 70. I'll take it up to maybe 86 or 85. That looks pretty good. Take a look at it. That looks pretty good. Pull it down a little bit. Okay, so nicely done in terms of, I think it's a little smaller. The balance of your elements, you want to make sure it's balanced. I could probably make this a little bigger. Point size for purposes of hierarchy. That looks pretty good. I'm going to save it. And that's my front panel cover. Now I'm going to repeat a certain pattern of box shapes in here. So I'm going to take the square tool, or rectangle I should say, and I'm going to make this white. Is that white? Looks weird. There we go. I'm going to alt drag it over. Actually, before I do that, let's give it an opacity of about 80. That looks good. You can still see through it. I'm going to do an alt drag. Alt drag. Alt drag. And save. Okay. And save. Okay, so this is where the type will be on in terms of, you know, the contrast that's needed for the body copy to be on. So very important to think about and kind of understand that, you know, you need it to read, to be readable. I'm going to go back to my copy, and I'm going to actually look at the text that's going to start on the inside of my brochure. So let's see. I'm going to leave this stuff for the 1/3 flap. So I'm going to leave that. I'm going to start with this information. Go all the way down. I'm going to copy this information. So I'm going to leave the first section alone. I'm going to do a copy. And I'm going to start on the inside here. Oh, I'm sharing my screen. Hold on. Take my type tool. And you might want to pull out guides if that helps. Sometimes that's very helpful. Because if you're using a box in the background like I am, you want to make sure you have enough margin space where you're typing. You don't want that type to be right up against. I have a lot of students that do this. You don't want that type to be right up against where that white box ends and begins, because that just won't look nice. You want enough margin space to frame that area and that section so it's easy to read. So I'm going to put, these won't print. These are just for you to align your text box to, so it's nicely aligned to that. See how I just did that? I'm going to do another text box. Drag and click down, drag and click down. Then we're going to just link these three together after we did them. So click on that first box you created, and at the very lower bottom part of that box is this white square, not the one in the corner, but above it's a little bigger. You're going to click that white square right in it, and it's going to show kind of like an icon like this where it says link, and it's just saying, okay, where do you want the text to go to and flow to next? So we're going to click on that second box. So whatever text is pasted in here, whatever is left over, will run into this box. I'm going to do the same thing here. Click. We're just linking those boxes together. Okay, so that all three of these are linked. Then I'm going to take the type tool, click into the first box, and do Command V, which is the paste. And you'll notice if you did it wrong, it won't flow into these other boxes or one or the other. Because I did it correctly, it's flowing to all three as far as linking it. Okay, I'm going to do a select all. I'm going to go back to my paragraph styles. I'm going to do a body copy, paragraph styles, a new paragraph, body copy. We're going to keep this simple. You don't want to use any script typefaces for this. You want it to be either simple sans serif or serif font. I'm going to go with, let's do 10 by 14 or 11 by 14. See what that looks like. And then go back to, oops, body copy. Kind of check it out. The other thing that you need to be aware of is you want to make sure that your baselines are aligning. So from one column to the next, the one panel to the next. So go up to window after you did that and choose types and tables and paragraph. And what you're going to do is you're going to select your type. So go ahead and do a select all. And you're going to make sure that this button on the very lower right-hand corner, you have it right now selected here. You want it to be this one selected, the very right one. It says align to baseline grid. Now what's going to happen is it's going to align it based on your point size and your line spacing. So you need to change that so it's not so gapped out. So I'm going to double click on body copy. And I'm going to change this so that it's smaller in point size. Let's see if that makes a difference. I'm going to change it again. 10 by, let's do 12. Let's see if it does anything here. Okay, so 10 by 12 looks good. Doesn't space out too much, but I can still use the baseline, align to baseline. That looks good. Take out some spaces in here. All right, so now what we want to do is we want to make okay, now we want to make a subhead. So select the subhead here and do a new paragraph style. And we'll name this subhead. I'm going to do bold condensed. And we're going to make it, let's do 14 point. We'll make it color red. And we'll make it left align so we won't have to change that. Okay, choose subheads, and this is what it'll look like. You might want to change this to the subhead if you want it to be a little different. I'm going to do new paragraph style. I'm going to do subhead. Or you can do, I think, no, I already used bold copy, so can't do that. Let's do 10 point, kind of like the body copy. But I will do bold condensed. Character color is black. And we'll see what that looks like. There we go. So it's kind of emphasizing it in a different way, but it's under, whoops, it's under that. You don't want it to be two subheads together because it's all in the same section. Okay, we want to take this about us out of here. I forgot about that. Sorry, guys. I'm going to do a copy and delete. And we're going to put this on this one. And package for ocean refocus. This needs to be on this one. Okay. So this is a subhead. I'm going to make tour capitalized. That kind of makes sense for that. I would probably make these maybe bullet points or something different. So let's do that. Let's do a new paragraph style. We'll name this bullet point. And make it medium condensed. And then where it says bullets and numbering. Bullets, align left, looks good. And then there we go. We just have to mess with the spacing now. I'm gonna make this a little bigger point size. Let's do 12 by 14. No. Let's do 11. Make this. There we go. That looks better. Okay. Bullet points. Let's go back down here. We don't want that big spacing here. Let's take that out. Let's do 10. Okay, so that would be the bullet points. And if you need to kind of change it up, you know, say, oh, well, that's not, you know, I think I need that to look a little different. You can go in here and change it up. Actually, I think before, let's see here. Where did I have this information for tour package for retaste? Huh. Okay. I didn't have that right on the demo that I was doing. Sorry about that. I was trying to figure out what I did wrong. Subhead, subhead, subhead. So I have all of this space here. Yeah, let's bring in some pictures, right? Pictures that would go along with each column. So you might want to read through here. Go ahead and take your rectangle frame tool. I kind of already have this pre-planned. And I'm going to put in a photo in here, here, and here. Try to keep it consistent in terms of the overall proportion of it. You know, you can have one a little bit different size. I'm going to pull this down a little bigger or down further. But, you know, you don't want to have too many different variations of image sizes and or shapes. You want to keep it consistent with the grid pattern. I'm going to throw a text wrap on this. So I'm going to go up to text wrap under window. And I'm going to do this because I don't want the copy to be, having issues with it. Okay, so you can adjust the spacing around it. I just chose the second one in, which is wraparound bounding box. I'm going to do the same thing here. I have to adjust the spaces here. Hold on. There we go. And because you have the align to baseline grid, this should all be aligning. See, I'm kind of showing you the baselines from the left columns to the right panel. It's all aligning because I have that set perfectly to the baseline. Then I'm going to just do a Command D and choose those images that, remember earlier I changed the TIFFs. Here we go. So this one was changed to a TIFF here. So I'm going to place the TIFF file. Object fitting, fill frame proportionately. Looks good. And double click on it and see what the percentage is up here. 61 by 61, which is perfect. It's not over 120 and it's not under a certain amount either. Command D, choose the other one that I have ready to go. Maybe, let's see. This one, this one. Just took a while. These files are really big. Object fitting, fill frame proportionately, double click. And I'm just using my arrow tool to kind of nudge it over here a little bit. And all of these are relative to each panel, so just make sure that you're keeping that in mind. Okay. Then just kind of take a look at your rags. The rags is kind of the, if you have left a line, you'll notice that there's a rag here, and you don't want it to be too noticeable in terms of this gap in here. You want it to flow nicely. You don't want widows, this is an example of a widow. This is an example of a widow. In the last line, one short word. So what I'm going to do to fix that, I'm going to go up here and fix this hyphen. So I'm going to do a shift return, and then I'm going to do shift return right in front of this multi-day trips. And as you're doing that, I'm going to do a shift return. You're kind of fixing that widow. Click on here and do a shift return. That looks pretty good. You can probably do a tab on this, but I'm not going to worry about it right now. Do a shift return. Shift return is a soft return. Shift return right in front of the word, so it bumps it down. Fix this. There we go. It just looks nicer. This is the picky stuff that you guys need to be aware of. Space there. Looks good. The devil's in the details. I'm going to save this. And I can always kind of adjust this to work better for my layout here. Okay. And then this one goes up a little bit. So that's pretty good. It's not too much space down here to look weird. I mean, you definitely could do a little bit more, bump it down a little bit more for each of these, but Oops. Something like that. Okay, and then whatever you didn't use copy-wise for the inside, you're going to use here. So let's go back to your Word file that was given to you, and let's talk about this. Okay, so what we didn't copy from before was this top information here, and about us. Okay, so let's copy that separately. Highlight, copy, go back to the InDesign file. And I'm going to put the tour facts here and the about us on the back panel. It kind of works out that way. And again, I'm going to pull out my margin guides so that I know that I have enough margin space even on my white box here. So I'm not having goofy lineups. Oops. Everything's framed perfectly, and it'll give me a nice little area to know where to place my type. Oops. Here we go. Take your type tool, I'm going to paste it in there. And then again, just set it, you know, body copy in your paragraph styles. And then you want the subheads to come out, kind of be more different, emphasize in a different way. I'll probably put more space in between these two sections. Bullet point for those. So you have some emphasis on certain things. Again, check your rag, see if it works. If anything weird's happening here, you can fix it. Okay, I could probably put another image down here since I have so much space. Okay, I'm going to go back, and I'm not going to switch my screen. I'm just going to go back and get that about us information from the Word file. So I just did a copy, and now I'm going to take the type tool, draw out a type. You don't have to link the boxes, this one or this one, it's fine, because they're not really linked. Shouldn't really have a big difference. Big difference here. Subhead. I put a space after these sections of type. A lot of the times students you guys don't notice that. So definitely put some spaces in between there. Oops. Okay, there we go. And again, I could probably put the logo down here. Let's do that. Let's do an alt drag and put it down here. I'll just do it a little smaller down here. So we'll do like 55, let's see. Reading center. And we'll just align it with this information here. Visually, this does not look centered, but there you go. I guess it's centered. Okay, you could put another image in here, down here, to kind of make it like fill out a little bit more balanced. But for the most part, this is where we're at. Let me go to preview and show you my files up here. So I showed you how to implement paragraph styles for your copy and how to make certain subheads and sub-subheads in a different emphasis. Showed you how to set paragraph styles for your body copy. Keep it all consistent. I showed you how to do baseline alignment for your copy so you don't have things shifting space, got baseline wise for each panel. And what that does, it just makes it easier to read. And aligns everything very nicely so that it looks professional. It's easy to read. It just looks neat. I'm ready to go. All right, when you're done with this, let's go back to our specifications here. You're going to save it, obviously, as an InDesign file. There are also other requirements that you needed to do. So we did all of this. Leads document. Okay. So you're going to export the InDesign file as a press quality PDF. Include crop marks and bleeds. Let's go ahead and do that. After you save it as an InDesign file, everything's good to go. Go File, PDF Presets, Adobe PDF Presets, Press Quality. Not high quality print, press quality. Difference between the two. Click Save. Then just kind of pay attention to this section here. You want all the pages exported out. Go to your marks and bleeds, and you'll want to check crop marks and bleed marks. Don't check this box because it's going to check everything. Just do crop marks and bleed marks, check those two, and then come down here where it says bleed and slug and check this document. You want to use the document settings. That's in your document. Export. And that's going to put your PDF on the desktop. I'll show you and open it up. It's always good to kind of look at it, make sure everything looks good, especially if you have crop marks. Oops. Let me open mine up here. So you can see what it looks like. So you can see that I have two sets of crop marks here. One's a trim line and one's a bleed. But this is what it looks like. So it looks good. Okay, I'm going to go back to my InDesign file. So I have that PDF on my desktop. That's good. So now in the directions, I need to package the InDesign file. That's the next bullet point that we need to do. So we're going to go File, Package. Very easy. Just make sure when you go to fonts that all look good. Everything looks fine. You have TIFF files, not JPEGs. You have CMYK, not RGB. Everything's linked and ready to go. Colors and inks, you shouldn't have any spot colors. Should all be CMYK. If that looks good, hit Package. Just hit Continue with that. It's just your contact information if you want to put that in there. Okay, I just renamed this Final, so I know that's the final folder. Just kind of take a look here before you select Package. Everything's checked. You don't have to include the PDF. You can leave that unchecked because we already created it. We just have to place it in that folder. So once you click Package, it's going to take a little while. It's going to package all of the fonts. So all the fonts that you used, all the images that you used, and your InDesign native file is going to go into one folder. And this folder is typically what you would give a printer if they didn't specify a PDF for final press. You could give them that folder right here. Now I have a lot of stuff on my desktop here. This is the final folder that we just did, packaged folder. If I double click on it, you'll see the InDesign files in there, the fonts that I used in a folder, and then all the linked images that I used. So that, if you were to hand this over to the printer or another designer, another design place, they could go in here and edit it without any problems. Now the only thing I need to do, remember that PDF that I created, this PDF? High res or quality, press quality, I need to throw that in this folder before I zip it. Okay, so your PDF should be in there. Okay, now with this selected, I'm going to choose if you're on a Mac, you can click the Control button once you select that and do compress. And this will zip condensed your folder here. And this is what you're going to submit for your file. Now this is a big file. This zipped folder, I'm going to show you how big it is. 77.1 megabytes. That's pretty big. And that's because I have a lot of high-res images that are saved out as TIFFs. So make sure you guys get this uploaded, you know, before the due date, just so you have adequate time to submit it. Sometimes there might be issues. All right, hopefully not, but we'll see. So that's how you would zip it. Include your press quality PDF, so package, this is what we just did. Package the InDesign file, place the quality PDF in there, and that's pretty much it. Okay, and that's what you would submit, that packaged file. Let me know if you have any questions. I'm gonna go ahead and go forward into our next assessment demo. Very quickly here, go to assessment. Basically, this is a little easier. This won't be too time consuming. You're gonna read through this background information. So for this assessment, you will create a sign for the front of the Aqua Excursions building. The sign will be produced from cut vinyl and plastic and then put over lights so it will be easily seen at night. Since the media is cut vinyl, no gradients or images can be used, and all artwork must be vector art. You may use 2-spot colors only. And remember, black is a color. Okay, so your signage specifications. The finished sign is 4 feet by 10 feet, but you're going to create your Illustrator files to a scaled down version so that 1 foot equals 1 inch. So basically, you're going to do 4 inches by 10 inches for your final file size or your layout size. Utilize the 2-spot color versions of your logo that match your other campaign components. Make sure it's all cohesive. Utilize only those 2 colors on the sign artwork. Also utilize the Aqua Adventures tag, so you need to have this on there. You need to have kayak tours, sales, and service, and then don't put this in there, but just have the web address. Be sure to outline all fonts utilized and keep a version without the fonts created in case there were revisions. Okay, so I'm going to open up Illustrator. Let's stop sharing here. So we're going to do a document it's 4 feet by 10 feet, but we're going to do that in inches instead. And typically when you do that, you tell the printer, you know, I scaled this down, and tell them the scale ratio so that they are aware of that, so they can blow that up to the size it's supposed to be. Usually give them a final size anyway. Cancel that. I did file open. So file new in Illustrator. Why is this taking so long? Sorry, guys. And then in the new document area, you want to make sure inches is chosen. So inches here. You want to do 4 feet by 10 feet. So 10 inches by 4 inches is what you want. So 10 by 4. I believe we'll be switching this. You can probably switch it to CMYK code color mode right now. So this is what it kind of should look like ratio-wise for your layout here. And remember, don't use too many elements. This is just a sign. It can be very simple. I'm going to go File, Place. I'm going to place my logo in here. Okay, so this should be your 2-color one. Actually, I'm placing my 3-color one. So
Let me open up my two color, see if I can find my two color AI file here. Give me 1 minute. Okay, let me open this up here real quick. I think this is a different color though. What you're gonna do is gonna go back to your AI file that you created in later weeks. Choose your two color variation, or make this two color. So right now, I actually think this is a little darker. Let me take a swatch to it here. Okay, so this should be your two color. And this should be your, I believe, your spot color too. So we'll change that to spot. So you might need to do some manipulation here. Spot color, so just double click on it to make it a spot color. Change it to spot. And then this color, just double click on the swatch and make sure you change process to spot. Okay? Yeah, once you get that ready to go, it's up to you on how you want to design this, but you need to have the following information in here. Let me grab that. And then again, I would use the same typeface that you used in all of your pieces so that it's, you know, consistent. You don't want like 3 different typefaces in your 3 identity pieces. You want it to be cohesive. All right, so what you can do is you can make this a little different. Maybe this isn't as bold, but maybe it's bigger in point size. And then the website's thicker and bolder. You make it the same color within your sign here. The next thing I would do is make sure it's centered. Go ahead, pull these out, center it on your file. If you're not sure, just go ahead and draw a square the same size as your layout. Oops. And then shift select and you can center it on there. I have to move this over a little bit. Okay, so that's centered. I would leave a little bit of space up top here, not too close. I mean, this is a nice space up here. Leave the same amount of space in between here and make sure you have enough space below here. So that's really important. You can do something like this, or maybe the website's red. As long as it's just 2 color, that's all good. You can even do something like this. Let's name this here, number 4, assessment 3. If it works, and not all color schemes, it works in this way. So just kind of bear with me here. If you wanted to do something a little different, you can do a square back here of that color. And I would probably do blue. And like I said, if it worked, you could do a shade of that blue to the point where you can kind of tell a difference, but it's not taking away from it. Do you think that works? I'm not quite sure if that works, but you could do something different. Like if you didn't want to do something similar to this, don't ever break your layout in half. Like I wouldn't do, this is kind of a design 101 thing. Don't break your layout in half. Always do a 1/3, only because there's a disconnect. And what I mean by that is if you decide to do, say, the logo here and then the information here, do a 1/3 layout. So have a bigger space on one side and then a smaller space over here. So this is just another option if you guys wanted to try something different. And again, I'm still only utilizing 2 colors. Make it smaller so it fits. You know, if the red works still, you know, that's not going to work. I would just leave it. And then I would center this in this space over here. I would center it based on the letter forms. So where the A starts and the A ends. And then I would align this as such. So you could do something like that too, or that could be red. Okay, when you're done, you're gonna save it. You're gonna do a select all, so a Command A on your keyboard, and go up to type on your menu bar and choose create outlines. And then you're gonna go file, save as, and you're gonna name this file _outlines. That way you have the regular version where you can edit the copy if you need to. So you'll have 2 AI files, one regular, one outlines. And then once you save it as an AI file, you're going to save it as a PDF. I had to read the directions, sorry. File, save as, Adobe PDF, desktop, looks good. Go ahead and throw in, you can do smallest file size, that's fine. Throw in the AI file, that's the outline file, with your PDF file, and go ahead and zip it together. So I'll show you what I'm talking about. Let me go to desktop. That way I can see that you did it right. So here's the, so I have the regular AI file, so keep that one. And then I have the outline variation too. Where is it? Where is it? Right here. Here's the outlines. And then here's the PDF. So just hold on to this one, the original one. Oh, hold on to all these, but just zip these two. So your outline AI file and your PDF file. Select both of those, hit Control, click on top, and compress the 2 items. And then you can name this. You could name this just your last name. It doesn't have to be the file name, because once I open it, I'll be able to see that your files are named appropriately. I didn't mean to click on that, so I'm sorry. So it could be like ABIS. But definitely click open your PDF just to make sure it looks good. You don't have to have your crop marks selected on this right now. Just make sure it looks good when you kind of view it. And that's pretty much it. We're pretty much at the stopping point. So I'm gonna wrap it up here. If you guys have any questions, let me know. There's a lot of information in these 2 assignments, so make sure you're going through each specification requirements very thoroughly. And I think listening to this recording will really help you guys understand kind of how to approach this, hopefully. But in the meantime, if you have any issues or any problems, I'm here. Here's the signage. 1, think, yep, we're all out of slides here. Just let me know, email me, shoot me an email if you have questions. And again, for the one section of our class, I will be here Tuesday morning, so tomorrow morning, and then also Thursday afternoon in the multi-sessions if you need extra help. All right, guys, have a great day.